You're now listening to The First Rose. Kindly state in the comment section what part of the continent you're watching from. Let's connect. Story synopsis. Grace Monroe lives a quiet, predictable life running her small bookstore in Seattle until mysterious gifts begin appearing. First a single red rose, then her favorite chocolates, then messages that reveal an intimate knowledge of her daily routines. When the gifts escalate to appearing inside her locked store, Grace realizes she's being stalked by someone with both the resources and obsession to breach any boundary. The stalker reveals himself as Caleb Stone, a devastatingly handsome billionaire CEO who has been watching Grace for months, painting portraits of her from memory, and orchestrating an elaborate courtship that blurs the line between romance and psychological manipulation. Despite her fear, Grace finds herself inexplicably drawn to Caleb's magnetic presence and the intoxicating way he sees her, as if she's the most beautiful, important person in the world. As Grace is pulled deeper into Caleb's opulent but dangerous world, she discovers dark secrets about his past. His former fiancée, Claire, died under mysterious circumstances, officially ruled an accident, but with suspicious details that suggest something more sinister. Caleb's manipulative brother Julian emerges as both a threat and a source of revelations, claiming Claire was murdered and hinting that Grace might be next. The psychological thriller intensifies when Grace learns that her own family history is entangled with the Stone Empire. Her mother once worked for the family and fled after witnessing illegal activities. This revelation forces Grace to question whether her relationship with Caleb is genuine love or part of a larger, more calculated game. Torn between her growing feelings for a man who worships her and her survival instincts warning her to run, Grace must navigate a relationship where love and obsession are indistinguishable. She discovers that Caleb's devotion, while genuine, comes with a possessiveness that could either protect or destroy her. The story explores themes of power, control, and the seductive nature of being completely desired by someone willing to move heaven and earth for you, even when that person might also be capable of moving you 6 feet under. Grace must ultimately decide whether to surrender to a love that feels like destiny or escape from a beautiful cage before it closes forever. Kindly like, subscribe and push the notification bell for more interesting stories like this. The First Rose appeared on a Monday. It was early morning in Seattle. The rain had already begun to fall, light, steady, and quiet, the kind of rain that made the whole city feel slow and sleepy. I stood outside my bookstore, ink and amber, holding my umbrella in one hand and my keys in the other. I was just about to unlock the door when something caught my eye. A rose. A single, perfect red rose lay on the welcome mat. Its stem was long and green, the petals full and fresh. A black ribbon was tied neatly around the stem. There was no card. No message. Just the rose. I stared at it for a few seconds, unsure of what to do. My first thought was that someone must have dropped it. But it looked too perfectly placed, too intentional. I bent down, picked it up gently, and looked around. The sidewalk was empty. A few people walked past under their umbrellas, not paying any attention to me or the flower. No one was watching. Still, I felt a chill run through me. I carried the rose inside and set it in a clean coffee mug behind the counter. I tried to shake off the strange feeling, but it lingered. I had no idea it was only the beginning. The next day, there was another rose. This time, it came with a small box of chocolate-covered almonds, my favorite. It was the exact brand I always bought when I wanted to treat myself, the kind I only splurged on maybe once a month. The box and rose were sitting on the ground beside the front door when I arrived at the store. Again, there was no note. No clue who had left them. I felt my stomach tighten. I picked up the items and glanced around. The street was busier today, but no one looked suspicious. Nothing seemed out of place. Still, the fact that someone knew what I liked, it didn't feel romantic. It felt personal. A little too personal. That afternoon, I checked the old security cameras I'd been meaning to fix. As expected, they hadn't recorded a thing. I made a mental note to finally get them replaced. But deep down, something in me didn't want to know who had left the gifts. Because that might make it real. By Wednesday, I was no longer trying to pretend it was harmless. A third rose appeared, but this time it was inside the store. I opened the bookstore like usual, flipped the sign to open, and went behind the counter to turn on the register. That's when I saw it. The rose was lying on the counter. Neatly placed, fresh and perfect. Beside it was a folded sheet of paper. My hands trembled as I opened it. It was a poem. Typed in a simple, clean font, "You walk in silence, a storm behind your eyes. I see you, I've always seen you, someday, you'll look back and understand." My heart pounded in my chest. Someone had come inside. I ran to the back door. It was locked, nothing seemed broken, no signs of forced entry, yet someone had gotten in, left a rose and a message, and disappeared without a trace. I felt cold all over. That afternoon, I called the police. The officer was polite but didn't take me seriously. "No threats were made," he said, flipping through a notepad. "No break-in, no damage. Could be a secret admirer." "I didn't give anyone a key," I said firmly. "We'll file a report, but without evidence, there's not much we can do." The officer gave me a generic pamphlet about personal safety and suggested I install a new security system. I nodded, thanked him, and walked home in the rain. I lived in a small apartment just above the bookstore. It wasn't fancy, but it was cozy, quiet, and familiar. Tonight, though, it felt different. The air felt heavy. Every creak in the floor made me jump. I kept the lights on. I locked the windows. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel safe. Thursday morning was cold and gray. I was restocking the shelves in the romance section when the bell above the front door rang. I called out without looking up. "1 second. Let me know if you need help." A smooth, deep voice replied, "I'm not here for a book." I straightened, confused. When I turned around, I froze. The man who had just walked into my store didn't look like a customer. He looked like a model from a magazine. He was tall, at least 6 feet, with dark hair that looked effortlessly styled, like he had just walked out of a private salon. His suit was black, tailored perfectly to his broad frame. Underneath, he wore a charcoal gray shirt, the top 2 buttons undone. No tie. But it was his eyes that stopped me, cold blue-gray, sharp and focused. They didn't just look at me. They looked through me. "Grace Monroe," he said, his voice smooth and low. "It's an honor to finally meet you." I stared at him, my heart beating too fast. "Do I know you?" I asked carefully. He smiled, slow and confident. "Not yet." I took a small step back. "If you're here about the gifts." "I am." My hands curled into fists at my sides. "Then I'm going to have to ask you to leave." "I didn't come to scare you," he said softly. "I just wanted to see you. In person." "You've already seen too much," I replied, my voice shaky but firm. The man didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice or try to get closer. Instead, he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small, black business card. He placed it on the counter. Caleb Stone. Stone and Roth Global. Seattle, Manhattan, Zurich. No phone number, no email, just a name. Then, without another word, he turned and walked out of my store. I didn't move for a long time, I just stood there, staring at the card. That night, I looked him up. Caleb Alistair Stone, 36 years old, billionaire. CEO of Stone and Roth Global, one of the most powerful investment firms in the country. His name came up in articles about international takeovers, silent battles between banking empires, and whispers of a family scandal hidden behind closed doors. I found pictures of him in expensive suits, at charity events and red carpet galas. He always looked calm. Controlled. Perfect. There were rumors, too, about his temper, about ex-girlfriends who vanished from the public eye. I closed my laptop. And for the 3rd night in a row, I didn't sleep. On Friday, just before closing, there was a knock at the back door. I jumped. My heart was already racing. I slowly walked to the door and opened it just enough to see who was there. A man in a suit stood in the alley, holding a white envelope. Behind him, a sleek black car waited with the engine running. The man gave a polite nod. "For Ms. Monroe." "From Mr. Stone." I took the envelope with shaking hands. The man returned to the car without another word. Inside the envelope was a handwritten note: Saturday, 8 p.m. A private gala at my estate. Your dress is handled. A car will arrive at 7:30. I only ask for one evening. No pressure. Just curiosity. See. I stared at the note for a long time. I should say no. I should ignore him. I should throw it away. But I didn't. Because for some reason I couldn't explain, I wanted to go. The dress arrived the next morning. It was hanging on my front door in a black garment bag. I opened it slowly and gasped. The gown was deep midnight blue. The fabric shimmered like water under moonlight. It was backless, with thin straps and a soft, flowing skirt. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever touched. At 7:30, the black town car pulled up in front of the bookstore. The driver opened the door for me without a word. I took one last look at my quiet little world, then stepped inside. The Stone estate was something out of a movie. Perched on a hill overlooking the city, the mansion was grand and glowing, surrounded by trees and hidden behind tall black gates. The front drive was lined with luxury cars. Valets in black suits moved quickly between guests. The inside was just as overwhelming. Chandeliers sparkled above my head. Music floated from a live string quartet in the corner. The floors were marble, the walls filled with art, and the guests were dressed in gowns and tuxedos more expensive than my entire store. I felt out of place immediately. But then I saw him. Caleb stood at the top of the staircase, dressed in a black tuxedo with no tie. His eyes found mine across the room, calm, unreadable, intense. He came down the stairs slowly, not breaking eye contact. When he reached me, he smiled. You came. I still don't know why. You will. He didn't leave my side for the rest of the night. He didn't introduce me to anyone. Didn't push me to talk. He simply walked with me, spoke softly, and watched me with those eyes that seemed to see everything. I didn't know what to feel. Part of me wanted to run. Another part wanted to stay. He poured me a glass of wine and touched the small of my back. His touch was gentle, but firm, and it made me shiver. There was something magnetic about him. Something dangerous, but also deeply human. And when the music slowed, and the crowd began to thin, he leaned in close. I want to show you something, he said. We walked down a long hallway lined with art and old photographs. I stayed close, my heart pounding. At the end of the hall, Caleb stopped at a pair of tall wooden doors. He opened them slowly. Inside was a private gallery, quiet, dimly lit, elegant. In the center of the room was a large oil painting. Of me. I stepped back, eyes wide. It was me, sitting in my bookstore, reading a book, my hair pulled back, my expression soft and thoughtful. It was painted in perfect detail. I looked at Caleb in disbelief. This was from before we met, I whispered. He nodded. I painted it. I swallowed hard. How? I saw you, he said softly. A long time ago. I passed your store once. I watched you through the window. And I couldn't forget. You've been watching me? I've been seeing you, he said. There's a difference. My voice shook. You don't even know me. I know enough to know I want to. I didn't know what to say. I should have screamed. Should have run. Should have told him to stay away. But I didn't. Because even though my mind was full of fear, my heart was full of something else. Something warm. Something wild, and something I couldn't explain. I didn't sleep that night. Even after the car brought me home, even after I changed out of the blue silk gown and washed my face twice, I could still feel Caleb's eyes on my skin. The image of the painting haunted me. The way he had captured me exactly, the way my hair fell, The way I held my book, even the crease between my brows when I read something intense. It hadn't just been a portrait. It was intimate. And that scared me more than anything. I wrapped myself in my blanket and stared at the ceiling for hours, replaying every word he had said. I saw you. A long time ago. There's a difference between watching and seeing. No one had ever spoken to me like that. No one had ever made me feel like that. Saturday morning came with heavy clouds and a quiet sky. I moved through the store like a ghost, dusting, restocking, pretending everything was normal. But my mind kept drifting back to the estate. To the hallway. To the way Caleb's hand had rested on my back like it belonged there. At noon, I found another envelope. This time, it wasn't left at the door. It was tucked inside my favorite book on the new arrivals table, The Secret Garden, the same copy I had shelved myself just 2 days ago. My heart skipped a beat. I opened the envelope slowly. I hope last night didn't frighten you. If it did, I'll disappear. Just say the word. But if you're curious, come again. Dinner. Wednesday. 7 p.m. No crowd this time. Just us. See. My hands trembled as I read the words again. It wasn't a demand. It wasn't a threat. It was an invitation. And somehow, that made it harder to refuse. On Monday, I didn't get another letter. Or a rose. Or anything. And strangely, the silence felt louder than the gifts. I tried to focus on work, but I was restless. Every time the bell over the door rang, my stomach tightened. Every man who walked in made my pulse race, even though none of them were Caleb. I hated how disappointed I felt. That night, I opened my journal and tried to write, something I hadn't done in months. I filled half a page, then crossed it all out. Why does he make me feel like this? I didn't have an answer. On Tuesday, I gave in. I pulled out the invitation and reread it at least 10 times. Then I walked to the back room and opened the small storage closet where I kept my emergency dresses, the ones my friend Lily had forced me to buy during a department store clearance sale. They still had tags. I chose a soft cream-colored one, fitted at the waist with a flowing skirt and thin straps. Not too formal, not too casual. It looked simple, but it made me feel pretty. I checked myself in the mirror 3 times before I let myself smile. Maybe I was ready. Wednesday came faster than I expected. At 6:30 p.m. a sleek black car pulled up in front of the bookstore. I stood behind the window, heart pounding, watching the driver get out. He looked exactly like the one from before, dressed in black, expression unreadable. He opened the car door. I hesitated. Then, slowly, I stepped outside. The ride to the estate was quiet. The city lights flashed by the windows as the car climbed up the hill, winding through thick trees and long private roads. By the time we reached the top, the sun had begun to set. The sky turned gold and purple behind the towering mansion. And I felt like I was entering another world. The front door opened before I even knocked. Caleb stood there, wearing a dark gray shirt with the sleeves rolled up and black slacks that clung to his lean frame. He looked relaxed, but there was something in his eyes, something deeper than before. "Hi," he said softly. I nodded. "Hi. Come in." I followed him through the marble foyer and into a smaller room off the main hall, a private dining room lit by warm lights and soft jazz playing from hidden speakers. The table was already set for 2. Candles flickered. Wine glasses sparkled. The smell of roasted herbs and garlic floated in from the kitchen. "Did you cook this?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "I had help," Caleb admitted with a smile. "But I chose the menu." He pulled out my chair. I sat down slowly, unsure of where to place my hands. Caleb poured us both a glass of red wine and took his seat across from me. For a moment, we just looked at each other. Then I asked the question that had been burning in my mind since the gala. "Why me?" His gaze didn't waver. "Because I saw you when I wasn't looking for anything," he said quietly. And I couldn't forget you. That doesn't make this normal, I whispered. It felt like stalking. I know. Then why keep doing it? Because I didn't know how else to approach you. You could have said hello. You could have walked in like a normal person. I'm not a normal person, Grace. I paused, staring into his eyes. No, I said. You're not. Dinner was quiet but not awkward. We talked about simple things at first, my store, my favorite books, the best coffee in Seattle. Caleb listened carefully, asking questions without interrupting. He didn't brag or dominate the conversation. He was calm, curious. Gentle, even. I found myself smiling more than I expected. But the tension between us never disappeared. It stayed under the surface like a low hum, pulling tighter with every glance, every silence, every accidental brush of our fingers. By dessert, my hands were shaking. Caleb noticed. Are you nervous? He asked. A little, I admitted. Of me? I hesitated. Of what this is. He leaned back slightly, watching me. It doesn't have to be anything, he said. Not if you don't want it to. But you want it to be something, I said. Yes. Why? Because I don't look at other people the way I look at you. After dinner, he didn't rush me. He didn't try to touch me again. He simply offered me another glass of wine and walked me through a hallway I hadn't seen before, one lined with windows that looked out over the dark city below. The view was stunning. But I couldn't stop thinking about his words. I don't look at other people the way I look at you. I wrapped my arms around myself. I'm not used to this, I said quietly. Any of this. Caleb stood beside me, his voice low. I know. I've been alone for a long time. You don't have to be. I don't want to be controlled. I don't want to control you. You already do, I whispered. He turned to me. Our eyes met. The tension between us snapped. Caleb reached for me, slowly, giving me time to pull away. When I didn't, his fingers brushed my jaw, tilting my face up toward his. His lips were a breath away. And when he kissed me, it was soft. Careful. Almost painful in its tenderness. My whole body trembled. The kiss deepened, and for a moment, I forgot the danger. Forgot the mystery. Forgot everything except the way his mouth moved against mine, the way his hand slid behind my neck, pulling me closer like he'd been waiting forever. When he finally pulled back, both of us were breathing hard. I stared at him, dazed. I should go, I whispered. I'll take you. No, I said, stepping back, I need air. Caleb didn't stop me. He just watched me leave. And for the first time, he looked uncertain. Back at home, I leaned against my apartment door and closed my eyes. My lips still tingled. My heart still raced. And my world was no longer quiet. Not anymore. I hadn't seen Caleb in 4 days. I told myself I needed the space. After that kiss, that overwhelming, perfect, terrifying kiss, I wasn't sure where I stood. Or how I felt. All I knew was that something inside me had shifted. My world had been simple before him. Quiet. Safe. Now? It felt like standing in the center of a storm. A beautiful, seductive, dangerous storm. Saturday morning came with sunshine, rare in Seattle. I opened the bookstore early and tried to focus on my usual routine, shelving returns, organizing the front table, making a fresh pot of cinnamon coffee, but my thoughts kept drifting. To his hands, to his lips, to the painting of me in his gallery, to the way he had said, I don't look at other people the way I look at you. No one had ever said anything like that to me before. And no one had ever meant it. Around noon, Lily called. My best friend had been texting me nonstop since the gala, demanding details. I swear to God, if you don't tell me everything right now, I'm marching into that bookstore in my pajamas, Lily threatened. Spill. The tea. I sighed into the phone. It's not what you think. Oh please. You wore a dress that probably cost more than your rent, got driven around in a luxury car, and disappeared into a mansion with a man who looks like he eats lesser billionaires for breakfast. So yeah, I think it's exactly what I think. It's complicated, I whispered. It's hot, Lily corrected. Tell me you kissed him. I was silent. Oh my God. You did. I don't know what I'm doing, Lily. Yes, you do, my friend said gently. You're living. That night, I didn't sleep. Again. I lay on my couch, curled up in my oversized sweater, flipping through pages of a book I wasn't reading. The kiss kept playing in my mind. His mouth. The way he had waited. Like he needed permission. Like he was holding himself back. He wanted me. That much was obvious. But it wasn't just physical. There was something else in his eyes. Something possessive. Something unspoken. And I wasn't sure if it scared me, or thrilled me. Sunday morning, I found another envelope. This one was on the counter. Not the front mat. Not inside a book. But placed directly where I always put my morning mug. My skin prickled. I looked around the store. No one was there. The doors were locked, yet somehow, the letter had arrived. My fingers shook as I opened it. I miss the sound of your voice. Wednesday was a glimpse. I want more. Let me show you the part of my world that only you were ever meant to see. No pressure. No chains. Just a key. If you want it. See, below the letter was a small black box. Inside was a key. Simple. Elegant. Silver. I held it in my hand for a long time. And felt the heat bloom low in my stomach. On Monday, I locked the key in my drawer. On Tuesday, I unlocked it again. By Wednesday, I held it in my hand every few hours, running my thumb across the metal, trying to convince myself I wasn't falling into something too big to control. But it already had me. And when Thursday came, so did another car. This one pulled up silently as I was closing the shop. The driver stepped out and opened the back door with a nod. He didn't speak, he didn't need to. I walked out in a soft black dress, my hair down in waves, lips bare, heart pounding. I slid into the seat and clutched the key in my hand. And let myself be taken. Caleb didn't greet me at the door this time. The driver brought me around the back of the estate, through a private garden lined with white roses and flickering lanterns. Everything smelled like rain and fresh jasmine. At the end of the path was a single door. It looked like it led to a cellar. My heart pounded harder. I looked down at the key. Then I used it. The door opened to a staircase. Not cold and dark like I expected, but warm. Wooden. Lit by soft golden lights that followed the path down. I descended slowly, my heels tapping against the steps. At the bottom was another door. I pushed it open. And gasped. It wasn't a cellar. It was a studio. A private, hidden art studio. The walls were covered in paintings. Dozens of them. And every single one was of me. Different angles, different moods, me laughing, me crying, me asleep, sitting, walking. In the bookstore, in my apartment, in my window. It was my life. Captured in oil and canvas. My knees almost gave out. I turned, and he was there. Caleb stood near the far wall, holding a palette in one hand, a brush in the other. He was wearing jeans and a paint-stained shirt. His eyes were darker tonight. Deeper. He didn't speak, he just watched me. Like he was memorizing this version of me too. Caleb, I whispered. What is this? My truth, he said. I shook my head. This isn't healthy. No, he said softly. It's not. But it's real. Why me? I asked again. He stepped closer. When I saw you, you looked like you didn't know how much light you carried. Like the world hadn't told you yet. That's not love, I said. It's obsession, he agreed. But I've never wanted anything the way I want you. My heart thudded hard. I took a shaky breath. You painted all of this? Every night, he said. Every time I missed you. You didn't even know me. I knew enough to be lost. I should have run, I should have turned around, left the studio, gotten in the car, and never looked back. But instead, I stepped closer. I stopped in front of one of the paintings, me sitting in the bookstore window, sunlight on my face, a coffee mug in hand. It looked peaceful. Dreamy. Soft. I touched the frame with my fingers. You see me like this? I whispered. I see you exactly like that. I looked back at him. And something broke inside me. Or maybe something surrendered. Caleb crossed the space between us in 3 slow steps. He didn't touch me immediately. He looked at me like he was holding back a fire. And when he finally reached for me, it was with both hands, one sliding around my waist, the other cradling my jaw. Say no, he whispered, and I'll stop. I didn't say anything. He kissed me and everything else disappeared. This kiss wasn't soft like before, it was deeper, fiercer, like weeks of restraint were crashing through him all at once. He pressed me against the nearest wall, his mouth claiming mine, hands everywhere. In my hair, down my back, gripping my hips like he didn't trust himself to let go. I moaned into his mouth, my fingers tangled in his shirt, my legs trembled. I felt his body against mine, hard, hot, demanding. And when he lifted me into his arms, I didn't fight it. He carried me out of the studio and into a side room I hadn't seen, a low-lit space with soft sheets and no windows. He laid me down like I was breakable, then he showed me just how much he'd been holding back. That night was slow, then fast, then slow again. It was lips and heat and whispered names in the dark. It was silk sheets and calloused hands and the quiet sound of my breath catching when he found the places that made me melt. It was possession, it was hunger, it was worship. And when it was over, I didn't want to leave. He held me after, one arm wrapped tight around my waist, his chest rising and falling against my back. You scare me, I whispered. He kissed my shoulder. Why? Because I don't know where this ends. I don't care, he said. As long as it doesn't end soon. I turned to look at him. Promise me something. Anything. If I say stop, you'll listen. He nodded, eyes serious. Always. And in that moment, I believed him even if I didn't believe in anything else. I woke to sunlight spilling across my face. For a moment, I didn't remember where I was. The sheets were soft. The pillow smelled faintly of cedar and spice. The mattress beneath me felt like clouds. Then my eyes drifted to the figure lying beside me, still, powerful, shirtless. Caleb. It wasn't a dream. We had crossed a line. One I couldn't uncross. He stirred beside me, arm reaching to pull me closer without even opening his eyes. His grip was firm, like he feared I might vanish. And honestly, I didn't want to. We stayed in bed for most of the morning. Caleb was quieter now, softer in his touches, slower in his movements. He kissed my shoulder when I got up. Pulled me back in when I tried to leave. Breathed me in like I was his heir. I liked it. More than I wanted to admit. But part of me also felt, watched. Not by Caleb. By something else. The estate. The air. The weight of unseen eyes behind those grand walls. Later that afternoon, Caleb offered me tea in the conservatory. I sat wrapped in a cashmere throw, gazing out over the glass windows and endless gardens. Everything was perfect. Too perfect. So, I began cautiously, your family, do they live here too? Caleb stiffened just slightly. No. Not anymore, he said. My father passed years ago. My mother lives on the East Coast. My younger brother travels a lot. Do they visit? Rarely. There was something in his voice. A hesitation. A barrier I wasn't allowed to cross. I saw photos in the hallway, I said. Caleb nodded. Most of them were taken before things changed. Changed how? He didn't answer. Instead, he reached for my hand and kissed the inside of my wrist, as though trying to distract me from asking again. It worked. As night approached, I decided it was time to go. I needed fresh clothes. Space to think. My heart and my body were moving faster than my mind could keep up. I'll have the driver take you, Caleb said softly, brushing a strand of hair from my cheek. Will you come back tomorrow? I'm not sure, I whispered. He didn't push. He just kissed my forehead and watched me leave. But something happened on my way out. The driver wasn't waiting by the car. Instead, a different man was standing there, younger, maybe late 20s, with sharp features and a sleek black coat. He had Caleb's eyes, Caleb's jawline. But his smirk was colder. You must be Grace, he said. I hesitated. And you are? Julian. Caleb's brother. I blinked. He didn't say you were here. I wasn't. I just arrived this afternoon. I glanced toward the mansion. He didn't mention you were visiting. Julian smiled, but there was no warmth in it. My brother doesn't share much, does he? There was something unnerving about him. I didn't like the way he looked at me, not hungry, not lustful but curious. Like I was a puzzle he'd already half solved. Well, I said slowly, it was nice meeting you. Likewise, Julian replied. Then he added, be careful, Grace. Caleb gets attached in dangerous ways. My blood ran cold. The drive back felt longer than usual. I couldn't stop replaying Julian's words in my head. Caleb gets attached, in dangerous ways. What did that mean? Was it jealousy? Or was there something darker? I hated that I wanted to ask Caleb. Hated more that I knew I probably wouldn't. I tried to sleep that night but couldn't. I tossed and turned, my body still aching in the best ways, my heart pounding in the worst. I opened my drawer. The key was still there. And it glinted under the moonlight like a dare. The next morning, I returned. I told myself it was for answers. But when Caleb opened the door and pulled me into his arms without a word, I forgot every question. We kissed in the hallway. Against the wall. Slow, heated, suggestive. His hand slipped under my shirt, exploring the soft skin of my waist. My fingers tangled in his hair. His lips moved from my mouth to my throat, then lower. Caleb. I whispered, breathless. Not here. His eyes darkened. Then take me somewhere I can have you. I didn't hesitate. I led him to the study. He closed the door behind us and pressed me against it, his mouth returning to mine, our bodies moving in perfect rhythm. He was wild but controlled. Hungry but focused. And every moment felt like a high I couldn't get enough of. But even in the heat, even as my head tipped back and I lost myself to the feel of him, part of me still felt it. That silence in the house. That invisible presence. That, watching. Later, after everything, I sat curled in Caleb's robe in front of the fireplace. He was across the room, pouring wine, still shirtless, the firelight licking across his skin like gold. Your brother was here yesterday, I said casually. He paused. Poured slower. Julian, he said finally. Yes. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't think it mattered. He said some strange things. Caleb turned, eyes unreadable. What kind of things? He warned me, I said, choosing my words. About you. Caleb walked over and handed me the wine. He didn't sit. He stood. Watching me. I love my brother, he said slowly. But he's not trustworthy. Why? He resents me. Why? Caleb hesitated. Then, because I got everything he wanted. The inheritance. The estate. The power. The name. Our father chose me. And Julian never forgave that. And what about love? Caleb's eyes locked on mine. I've never had that, he said. Until now? I asked. He nodded. I'm not afraid of your past, Caleb, I said. I just don't want to be caught in something I don't understand. You already are, he murmured. And then, before I could ask what that meant, the power went out. The lights flickered once, then died. The fire was the only source of glow. And somewhere, in the shadows of the house, I heard a sound. A door, a step, then a whisper. Caleb, I said softly, was that you? He frowned. No. He stood, tense now, eyes narrowed, scanning the room. Then he moved, fast, silent, purposeful, toward the hallway. Stay here, he ordered. But I didn't listen, I followed. The hallway was dark. Only the faint moonlight spilling through the windows lit our path. We passed the staircase, the piano room, the old portrait wall, then a door creaked open near the end of the hall. It was the locked room Caleb had never mentioned. He cursed under his breath. Caleb, I whispered, what's in there? But before he could answer, the door swung wide. And Julian stood inside, grinning. Well, he said. Looks like we're all playing house now. What the hell are you doing? Caleb growled. Just getting reacquainted with the past, Julian said. She deserves to know, doesn't she? Julian, Caleb warned, stepping forward. But Julian's next words hit like a gunshot. Tell her, brother, tell her what happened to Claire. I froze. The name meant nothing to me, but Caleb's reaction said it all. He paled then looked away. And he said nothing. Julian's smile widened. You see, he said to me, you don't know who you're sleeping with. Then he turned and walked away, leaving the door wide open. Inside the room was a single photograph. A woman. Blonde. Beautiful. Smiling in a garden. And standing beside her, arm wrapped tightly around her waist, was Caleb. My legs nearly gave out, I turned to him. Who is she? Caleb stared at the photo, jaw clenched. My fiancée, he said hoarsely. Claire. What happened to her? She died. How? Silence, then, she fell down the stairs. It was an accident. I stepped back. Did you kill her? I asked, voice shaking. Caleb looked at me like he'd been punched. No, he whispered. God, no. Then why would your brother? Because he's cruel and jealous. And he wanted her too. Why didn't you tell me about her? Because I wanted something new, Caleb said. Something untouched. Something real. Something you could control? I asked. He flinched but I turned away. That night, I didn't sleep at the estate. I asked for the driver. And Caleb didn't stop me. He just stood in the doorway, watching me walk away. Again. But this time, there was no promise I'd return. The rain in Seattle never stopped for long. By morning, it was pouring again, thin sheets dancing across the bookstore windows, tapping against the glass like restless fingers. I sat behind the register, staring blankly at the computer screen. I hadn't slept, I hadn't eaten. I couldn't stop seeing that photo. Claire's smile, Caleb's arm around her, the look in his eyes, a look that wasn't very different from the way he looked at me now. Had it been real? Had I misunderstood everything? Or worse, was I just the next woman on his list? He hadn't texted me not even once. I both hated and loved that. I wanted him to beg, to chase, to explain, but the silence only made me wonder if he even cared. Maybe I'd imagined the whole thing, the depth, the danger, the way he touched me like I was something rare. I kept glancing at my phone. Checking and refreshing but nothing. Just Lily, sending cryptic emojis and TikToks I couldn't bring myself to open. Then, just before noon, the bell above the door chimed. And Caleb walked in, he was soaked. Rain dripping from his hair, dark coat clinging to his broad frame. His eyes met mine the second he entered and I froze. The store went silent, no one else was there. He didn't speak at first. Just stood there, rain pooling at his feet, jaw tight, breathing hard. "You wouldn't answer your phone," he said finally. "I needed space," I said. "Space from me?" "Yes." He stepped closer. "Grace. You lied." "I didn't." "You hid her." "I buried her," he said, voice low. "Not because I was guilty but because I didn't want my future to look like my past." "Then you should have told me who you were before you asked for my heart." The words left my mouth and hit him like bullets. He took a shaky breath. "I've been trying to protect you." "From what?" "From me," he said. The silence between us thickened then, softly, he said, "Claire didn't fall." My blood ran cold. "She was pushed." I stared at him. "By who?" He looked away. "We never proved it but I know it was Julian." My throat tightened. "Why?" "Because she loved me and he hated that." "Why wouldn't you tell the police?" He gave a bitter laugh. "Because I was already guilty in their eyes. Because I was the one at the bottom of the stairs holding her body." I swallowed hard. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because you need to understand something," he said. "I will never hurt you but I will burn the world to the ground if anyone tries to take you from me." I should have run. I should have kicked him out, locked the doors, and never looked back. But instead, I stepped around the counter and stood in front of him and whispered, "Then prove it." Caleb's kiss was hard, desperate, raw. His hands tangled in my hair as he pulled me closer, mouth devouring mine, tongue sliding in deep, hungry strokes. I gasped, grabbing fistfuls of his coat as he backed me against the bookshelf. Rain dripped from his coat onto my skin. I didn't care. He kissed my jaw, my neck, then down to the hollow of my throat, where he bit gently, possessively. "You're mine," he murmured. "You left," I whispered. I stayed away so I wouldn't say something I couldn't take back. "Like what?" He looked at me, eyes on fire. "Like I love you." I froze. Heart pounding. "I know it's fast," he said, voice rough. "I know it's dangerous. But it's the only thing I'm sure of. I've never felt this way before." I blinked hard, trying not to cry. "Not here. Not now." He cupped my face in both hands, holding me like I was glass. "I want you, Grace. Not just your body. Your chaos. Your doubts. Your silences. What if I'm not ready? Then I'll wait. But I'll wait with you in my arms." We didn't make love in the bookstore. But the heat between us said we almost did. That night, I returned to the estate. Voluntarily. No driver. I drove myself, a bold move that felt like reclaiming power. When I arrived, Caleb was waiting by the door. He didn't speak. He just opened his arms. And I walked straight into them. Dinner was quiet. He cooked. I watched. He didn't talk much, just glanced at me often, like he couldn't believe I was real. At one point, he tucked my hair behind my ear and smiled. "I never pictured love looking like this," he said. Neither did I. Later, in the hallway, I asked about Julian. "I had him escorted out," Caleb said. "He's not welcome here anymore." "What if he comes back?" "He won't," he said. "Not if he values what's left of his freedom." There was something final in his voice. Dangerous. I shivered. But it wasn't fear. It was safety, the kind you only feel when a man would destroy anyone who touched you wrong. That night, we stood in the gallery together. I looked up at the paintings again, all of me, in different emotions. "You made me look beautiful," I whispered. "You made me feel again," he replied. He kissed me behind the ear, slow, gentle. And that night, when he undressed me, he did it like a ceremony. My dress slid off my shoulders and pulled at my feet. He kissed every inch of my skin, my collarbone, my cleavage, the soft spot behind my knee. I gasped when he slid his hands between my thighs, and when he lifted me and carried me to the bed, I wrapped my legs around his waist, whispering his name like a prayer. The lovemaking was slow. Intimate. I moaned into his mouth as his hands explored my body with reverence, sliding over my curves, teasing my softest places. His kisses went lower, trailing heat between my thighs until I trembled with anticipation. He made me feel wanted, worshipped, consumed. And when he finally sank into me, I gasped, not from pain, but from the way he filled me, body and soul. We moved together like we'd always belonged. And when we finished, I was shaking in his arms, not just from pleasure, but from the weight of something deeper. Something like love, but love doesn't protect you from the truth. And the next morning, while Caleb was in the shower, I found something I wasn't supposed to. A drawer half open. Inside, an old letter. It was addressed to Claire in Caleb's handwriting. And it wasn't romantic, it was a warning. If you leave again, I won't be responsible for what happens. My hands trembled. The door creaked open behind me. Caleb stood in the doorway, wet from the shower, towel slung low on his hips. Steam still clung to his skin, a beautiful, dangerous god standing between me and the truth. I held up the note. Tell me this isn't what it looks like. His jaw tightened. He stepped inside slowly, like he was approaching something wild and cornered. Grace, where did you find that? It was in your drawer. I didn't put it there for you to find. That doesn't answer the question. Caleb's voice dropped low. Put it down, Grace. No. My fingers clutched the letter tighter. I want answers. His entire body went still. I didn't hurt her. Then what does this mean? I snapped. If you leave again, I won't be responsible for what happens? Caleb, that doesn't sound like a man in love. That sounds like a threat. He exhaled slowly. I wrote that after she ran off with Julian. I froze. What? She left me once, he said, voice tight. She lied. She stole from me. And then she disappeared, with my brother. My stomach dropped. I was losing my mind. I wrote that letter in a moment of rage. I never sent it. But you kept it. I forgot it existed, or you wanted a reminder of what you're capable of. Grace. I stepped back. You need to leave. His expression shifted, not angry, not pleading, but terrified. Don't do this. I need space. I gave you space before, he said. And you came back. That was before I found this. Caleb stepped toward me. Let me explain. Let me. No, I whispered. I don't feel safe right now. That broke him. His eyes shattered. You don't feel safe, with me? I didn't answer. I couldn't. The silence was too loud. And then I turned and walked out. I didn't go home. I drove for hours, past the city. Past the suburbs. Into the edges of nowhere, where the trees swallowed the road and my thoughts became louder than the rain. I checked into a small inn under a fake name. Threw my phone into the drawer. Took a hot shower. And cried. Not because I hated Caleb. But because I didn't know who he was anymore. And because my heart was still so tangled up in him, it hurt to breathe. The next day, I turned my phone back on. 32 missed calls. All from him. One text. I'm not letting you go. Come home. No name. Just that. I should have been scared. But deep down, some part of me liked it. That was the part that terrified me most. 2 days passed. 3. Then one night, after dinner, there was a knock on my door. I peeked through the peephole. Caleb. He looked different. Tired. Rougher. Unshaven. Like a man losing his mind. Grace, he said the moment I opened the door. I'm sorry. I crossed my arms. You tracked me down. You didn't exactly cover your tracks well. You shouldn't be here. He stepped inside anyway, slowly closing the door behind him. I'm not letting you walk away, he said. Not when I've finally found something real. What if I don't want real with you? He flinched. Then, quietly, you're lying. You don't know that. Yes, I do, he said, stepping closer. Because I know how your body trembles when I touch you. I know how you gasp when I whisper your name. I know the way you look at me when you think I'm not watching. His hand cupped my cheek. I closed my eyes. I scare you, he said. I know that. And maybe I should. Because the truth is, Grace, I've never wanted anything more than I want you. Not money. Not control. Not even revenge. My breath hitched. I love you, he said. Even if I don't love you back? I'll wait, he whispered. But I won't walk away. His lips brushed mine. Slow, careful, and testing. I didn't stop him. Instead, I melted. The kiss deepened. His arms pulled me tight. My hands slid beneath his coat, feeling the tense muscle beneath his shirt. He tasted like rain and bourbon and longing. He walked me back toward the bed, lips never leaving mine. Tell me to stop, he said, voice hoarse. I didn't. Clothes dropped to the floor in silent surrender. His shirt. My dress. My bra. His belt. Skin against skin, breath against breath, heart against heart. Caleb laid me down gently. His lips trailed kisses across my collarbone, my breasts, the curve of my waist. His hands explored my body like a man starved, memorizing every inch. I moaned softly, arching into his touch. He whispered my name like a promise. When he slid inside me, I gasped, not from surprise, but from how right it felt. We moved slowly, deeply. My fingers tangled in his hair as he buried his face in my neck, whispering how much he needed me. And for a moment, all the lies, all the secrets, faded. There was only the way he filled me. The way he held me. The way he made me feel. Afterward, we lay tangled in the sheets. Neither spoke. Until I finally said, I want the truth. All of it. Caleb turned his face toward mine. You'll hate me. I might. I'd still rather lose you with the truth than keep you with a lie. I nodded. Then tell me about Claire. Caleb sat up, running a hand through his messy hair. She wasn't who people thought she was, he said. She was beautiful. Smart. But manipulative. She was after the money. She used me. I stayed quiet. She had a thing with Julian, I found out too late. They were going to take everything. The business, my name. My power. What happened the night she died? She told me she was leaving, he said, voice thick. Said she never loved me. Said she'd rather rot than be mine. Tears stung his eyes. We fought. She ran. Julian showed up. They argued at the top of the stairs. Then she fell. My breath caught. You saw it? I heard it. Julian? I believe it was him. But I had no proof. And my family didn't want the press. So I buried it. Buried her. Buried everything. I closed my eyes. I don't know what to believe. You don't have to believe anything right now, he said, just stay. I did. That night, I stayed in his arms. But sleep never came easy. Because while my body had given in, my mind was still caught between love and fear. The low hum of the air conditioner was the only sound in the room. I sat on the edge of the bed, Caleb's coat still draped over my shoulders like a shield I didn't ask for. I hadn't slept. Not really. Every time I closed my eyes, the world spun, faster, louder, heavier. I'd let him stay. I didn't know why. But some part of me wasn't ready to push him away. Not yet. He was curled up on the small couch, jaw clenched even in sleep, like he was ready to fight even in his dreams. I stared out the window of the inn. The Seattle rain had returned, soft, steady, and cold. It always rained when something changed. A soft knock interrupted my thoughts. 3 quiet taps. My stomach tightened. I tiptoed to the door and peeked through the peephole. Julian. Dressed in black. Soaked from the rain. But smiling like the devil on a Sunday morning. I didn't open it. His voice came through the door. I'm not here to fight. Or steal you. I just want to talk. I stayed quiet. 5 minutes, he said. You deserve that much. Against my better judgment, I unlocked the door and opened it just enough to slip outside. We stood under the flickering hallway light. I crossed my arms. How did you find me? You think my brother's the only one with connections? You followed me? Tracked your phone. You left it on. I cursed myself silently. Julian leaned against the wall. I'm not here to make this worse, he said. But you need to understand what you're really dealing with. I glared at him. And you think you're the better man? He smiled. No. I just know how deep the Stone family secrets go. I hesitated. He lowered his voice. Your mother worked for us. I blinked. What? Years ago. Before you were born. She was a housekeeper on the estate. Quiet, kind, but always watching. My mom never told me that. She wouldn't have. After what happened? What happened? She caught something she shouldn't have. Illegal transfers. Fake business deals. My father was cleaning dirty money through offshore accounts. She saw it, and she vanished. New name. New life. My heart pounded. I found the old records last year, Julian said. That's how I recognized your last name when Caleb showed me your photo. My head spun. Why are you telling me this now? Because Caleb's playing a dangerous game. I don't believe you. Julian stepped closer. You think he loves you? Yes. Then ask yourself why he didn't tell you who your mother was the moment he found out. The door opened behind us. Caleb. He looked furious, bare feet, storm in his eyes, and a tension that made the hallway freeze. Get away from her. Julian smirked. Morning, brother. I said back off. I held up a hand. It's okay. I came out here on my own. Caleb looked at me like I'd just stabbed him. You shouldn't be talking to him. Julian raised an eyebrow. She deserves the truth. You're just upset because I got to it first. Caleb's fists clenched. Get out. Julian looked at me. He didn't tell you, did he? He found out who your mother was months ago. Had the whole file. I turned sharply to Caleb. Is that true? Caleb didn't answer. I stepped forward. Did you know my mom worked for your family? He swallowed. Yes. Since when? A few weeks after we met. I felt my stomach twist. And you didn't think I deserved to know? I didn't want it to change things between us. But you kept that from me. He stepped forward. Grace. No. I backed away. You lied. Julian raised his hands. And on that note, I'll take my leave. Call me when you're ready to stop being someone's obsession. He walked off, whistling. I went inside without another word. Caleb followed. Back in the room, I sat on the bed. He stood near the door, dripping rain onto the carpet. I wasn't trying to manipulate you, he said. You kept something huge from me. I was trying to protect what we had. You don't protect people with lies, Caleb. He knelt in front of me. Your mother was a good woman. She didn't deserve what happened. And when I found out, I was afraid you'd leave me. Why? Because I've never wanted anyone the way I want you. You're not just some beautiful girl with a bookstore. You're mine, Grace. My breath caught. That's the problem, I whispered. You talk like I'm your property. You're not. But I feel like you're part of me. That's not love, Caleb. That's possession. I'll work on it, he said softly. I swear. I looked away. I don't know what to believe anymore. Believe what you feel when I touch you. He reached for my hand. I didn't pull away. That night, I didn't sleep. But I didn't leave either. We lay in bed, barely touching, our hearts between us like something breakable. Around 3 a.m. Caleb finally whispered, "Do you want me to go?" I shook my head. But said nothing else. In the morning, I found a small envelope on the nightstand. My name. Handwritten. Inside, a photo. My mother. Young. In a maid's uniform. Standing behind a man in a sharp suit. Caleb's father. I stared at the photo for a long time. Then turned it over. Truth is power. And power is choice. No name. Just that. I stepped outside to clear my head. The rain had stopped. The clouds had lightened. But my heart still felt like thunder. Caleb joined me later. We sat on the stone bench near the parking lot, coffee cups in hand. I'm giving you a choice, he said. I glanced at him. I love you, he said simply. But if this is too much, if you don't trust me, I'll walk away. I'll give you the space you need. I stared into my cup. The silence stretched long. Finally, I spoke. I want to stay. His shoulders dropped in relief. But, I added, you have to earn my trust back. All of it. He nodded. Anything. No more secrets. No more lies. And no more Julian. Caleb clenched his jaw. Done. That night, we finally touched again. But not in a rush. Not with heat. With something softer. More real. He kissed me slowly, hands in my hair, forehead pressed to mine like he was praying. I let him in. And for the first time in days, we both slept. I hadn't gone back to my bookstore the next day. Instead, I stayed in the little inn with Caleb. Away from the noise. Away from the questions. Just the two of us in a quiet room with creaky floors, faded curtains, and sheets that smelled faintly of lavender. It wasn't glamorous. But it was real. And for the first time in days, I didn't feel watched or hunted. I felt held. We spent most of the morning lying in bed. No talking. Just warmth. Caleb's arms wrapped around my waist. My fingers gently brushing his bare chest. Our bodies fitting together like we had always known each other. The past still hurt. But for now, silence healed more than words could. By afternoon, the world returned. Caleb's phone buzzed constantly, missed calls, text alerts, stock reports. He ignored most of them, until one made his expression change. What is it? I asked gently. He hesitated, then showed me the screen. Julian Stone press conference, live in 30 minutes. What's he planning now? I murmured. Caleb sat up, dragging a hand through his hair. He's going to use the media to try and destroy me. My heart clenched. You think he'll talk about us? Not directly, he's smarter than that. But he knows how to twist things. And he has access to enough old family documents to make me look like the villain. I nodded slowly. Then let him. Caleb turned to me. What? Let him talk, I said, firmer now. If we keep reacting, he controls the game. He studied me. You really think we ignore him? No. I think we win, by showing we're not afraid. A slow smile spread across his face. You've changed, he whispered. I tilted my head. No. I just stopped hiding. Caleb didn't speak at the press conference. Julian stood alone behind the podium, smooth as ever, spewing polished words. He talked about ethics. He hinted at corruption. He told the world he was stepping down from the Stone family's board, to protect his name. But he also hinted at family betrayal. Some people inherit power, he said, looking into the camera. But not everyone deserves it. People clapped. But not for long. Because 10 minutes after it aired, Caleb released a statement. Just 3 lines, let the truth speak for itself. I've made mistakes. But I don't hide behind lies, I build from them. By midnight, Julian's press conference had been buried by something else, an article in the Tribune titled, Julian Stone's Missing Millions, The Hidden Trail. Caleb hadn't said anything. But someone had sent the right files to the right reporter. I didn't ask. But I smiled when I saw Caleb reading the article, calm and quiet, sipping black coffee. I walked over, kissed his temple, and whispered, checkmate. Days passed. Then a week. Julian left town quietly. No more news. No more threats. Just quiet. Finally. I moved back to my apartment. Not because I was done with Caleb, but because I needed to feel myself again, grounded, present, real. Caleb didn't fight it. Instead, he helped me repaint my walls. He brought me dinner every night. Sometimes he just sat with me while I read, saying nothing. He wasn't trying to fix me. He was just there. And that made all the difference. One night, as rain tapped gently on the windows, I sat on the couch, legs curled beneath me. Caleb stood at the kitchen counter, reading something on his phone. I miss the bookstore, I said softly. He looked up. Then let's go tomorrow. I smiled. It might be closed. I know someone who knows the owner. I laughed, really laughed, and he smiled like it was the most beautiful sound he'd ever heard. Then he crossed the room and sat beside me. I bought the building. My eyes widened. What? Not to own you, he said quickly. I swear. Just to protect it. From people like Julian. From greedy developers. The lease will stay in your name. I just wanted you to feel safe there again. I stared at him, heart thudding. You did all that, for me? He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small folder. Inside was a copy of the deed, and a gift agreement. It was mine. Fully. No strings. I want your dreams to be as protected as mine, he said softly. I didn't cry, I didn't swoon, I leaned forward, pressed my forehead against his, and whispered, you really love me. With everything I have. Weeks passed. The bookstore reopened. It was brighter than before, filled with new books, a small poetry corner, and a tiny cafe in the back that Caleb insisted on calling Grace's Blend. Business boomed, but more than that, I felt like myself again. I thought we were just going to dinner. He'd told me to dress nicely, something you feel beautiful in, and sent a black car to pick me up from the bookstore after closing. I wore a sleek satin dress in emerald green. Simple, elegant, with a slit up my leg and a neckline that kissed my collarbone. My curls were swept up loosely, and I wore only mascara and red gloss. The driver didn't take me to a restaurant. He pulled up to a private elevator tucked behind one of the tallest luxury towers in Seattle. Penthouse Garden, he said with a smile, before holding the door open for me. I stepped inside, my heart suddenly pounding. When the elevator opened, the doors revealed a rooftop transformed into a dream. Thousands of soft white fairy lights draped above like stars. Fresh roses, deep red, snowy white, lined a glass path that led toward a candlelit fountain in the center. A live violinist stood to the side, playing a soft melody I recognized but couldn't name. And there, at the end of the path, stood Caleb. Dressed in a black suit tailored like poetry. No tie, just the top 2 buttons of his shirt undone and his dark hair slightly tousled by the wind. The Seattle skyline glittered behind him. But he was all I could look at. He didn't smile. Not yet. His eyes told me this moment meant everything. I stepped onto the path, slowly, like I might float away. When I reached him, he took both my hands in his. "Hi," he said softly. I smiled. "Hi. Do you remember," he said, "what you told me the night you walked out of that hotel room?" I blinked. I said, "I needed space. You said you wanted real." He took a breath. "This is real, Grace. Every light, every petal, every second of my life since the day I walked into your bookstore." My eyes filled with tears. "You've seen me," he said. "At my worst. My coldest. You've hated me. You've healed me. You've forgiven me for things I didn't even know I needed to be sorry for." I let out a shaky laugh. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small silk-covered box. Then, finally, he knelt on one knee. Not to impress me. Not to prove anything. But because in this moment, Caleb Stone, billionaire, empire holder, guarded heart and all, was utterly mine. "I love you," he said. "I don't want to own you. I don't want to change you. I just want to build with you. The bookstore. The quiet nights. The wild ones. All of it." He opened the box. Inside was a ring that sparkled like something plucked from the stars, a single emerald-cut diamond flanked by 2 teardrop sapphires, nestled in a band of white gold. "Marry me, Grace Monroe. Be the reason my world finally makes sense." The violinist played on. The wind was soft. My heartbeat was louder than the city. "Yes," I whispered, tears spilling freely. "God, yes." He stood, slipped the ring onto my finger, and pulled me into his arms. Then he kissed me. And everything else, the sky, the city, the past, melted away. Later, after champagne and laughter and spinning barefoot across the rooftop like 2 kids in love, Caleb whispered in my ear, "Welcome home, Mrs. Stone." The wedding wasn't a grand affair. No media. No mansion. Just close friends, a garden in spring, soft music, and books instead of flowers. I wore ivory. Caleb wore a smile. Lily cried the loudest. And that night, as we lay in bed in our new shared home, I whispered against his skin, "I'm not afraid anymore." He pulled me closer. "Good. Because I'm not letting you go." I smiled. "I know." We made love slowly, not like the first time, not urgent. Not tangled in guilt or fear. But calm. Certain. Right. And when the sun rose over Seattle the next morning, it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like everything had just begun. The end. Thank you for staying tuned and listening till the end. If you enjoy this story, kindly leave a comment on your favorite part and don't forget to subscribe.